Roller coaster income. You're super busy with jobs and then it dries up and you wonder where the work's gone. Tune into this week's podcast where we identify the key cause of roller coaster income and how to stop it so that you can have a stable platform for growing a profitable business.
You got 99 problems in your business while you're busy until you got no forward work, and now you got one problem.
Well, that's kind of obvious, but it's so not obvious when you're in the busyness.
The right time to start is now.
3 ways to get the inputs consistent.
If you wait until you're actually quiet, it's too late.
If that was all that was required, that would be great, but there's more. Welcome to the Profitable Tradie podcast. Your host here, Tony Fraser-Jones. Looking forward to hanging out today with you as well, Phil Smith.
Yeah, mate. Always looking forward to it.
Happy day.
Yeah, stoked.
What's cooking, man?
Mate, we're talking about a little phenomenon that people go through with roller coaster workflow. And I think we can really get in this situation where, you get some work, you're real excited, and then you're doing the work and you're getting it all done, bringing home the bacon. And then all of a sudden it feels like you've been busy for ages, but then nothing. It's just gone. And you think, how did this happen so quickly? And it's a scary phenomenon.
It is. And when you find yourself in that situation, like, flipping heck, now I've got to find some work quickly. Like, I need some work yesterday. And if I don't, my guys are going to be standing around. I'm going to be burning cash. It's super stressful. You're like, oh, maybe I've got to let some of them go. And your mind goes to some pretty dark places. But the problem is often you have really no idea how to get started and how this problem actually happened in the first place.
Yeah, it's pretty daunting.
It is daunting.
Yeah, and very scary. So I'm sure you got a story to kind of paint the picture.
I do. This is a real life story.
Ooh.
Didn't make this one up.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy gardening a bit, and we have a veggie garden at home.
Yeah.
Now
I thought you'd be more of the flower type of guy.
Roses.
Yeah. No peonies.
Poppies.
Yeah.
Quite good to grow. Not so much in the way of veggies this year from the garden. Hasn't been great. We've got a couple of zucchinis, a few tomatoes, a bit of coriander, which Damon, our marketing manager, really enjoys.
Oh, he does. He does. Big time coriander guy. Also into dry flavors.
He is. Now, I didn't even plant that coriander, actually, and I didn't do any weeding or anything this year. In fact, if you think about the bounty or lack thereof from our vegetable garden, it's really my fault because I haven't really done anything in that garden. In fact, the reason there are zucchinis is because my father-in-law planted some zucchini plants. The tomatoes reseeded from last year, and the coriander's just reseeded from coriander from previous years.
It does that.
It does.
Rosemary's also good for that.
Goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Basically, I've been too busy on other stuff. Like, I've just haven't paid it any attention. I haven't weeded anything. Luckily, we have a watering system, so it hasn't died during our long hot summer. Otherwise, it would have been a complete bust. And the
coriander would have survived.
Well, that's right. It's like just can't kill that stuff. The point is, I ain't really done much, so I can't expect much. There's been very little inputs in the way of gardening expertise or effort, and very little outputs. And unfortunately, that's often the case with marketing and workflow in the businesses. It's just not a lot happening on the input side, and therefore not a lot happening on the output side.
Yeah, well, if you don't put anything in, you can't expect anything out. So same with your garden. And, Tony, when I first heard this story from you, you were blaming all of the external factors. You're saying, hey, look, it's my tools, or it's the soil, or it's been a hot summer and stuff. So it's good to hear the truth from you, man. You've come a long way.
I've come a long way.
Yeah.
I'm a reformed man.
Yeah, that's right.
What can I say? It's your positive influence rubbing off on me.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. And you'll do better next year. I believe in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few more inputs, a few more outputs. So, guys, I think, if you do have roller coaster workflow, you can end up with some real problems in your business.
This is damaging, because you have inconsistent cash flow and profit. And so what can happen is you have a few good months, you make lots of money in the bank, you're feeling good, and then you can have a few weeks where actually you spend all that money just keeping things going without a lot of work coming in. And so, to make consistent profit, you need to make consistent profit. And to make good annual profit, it needs to be every month. And you don't want 2 or 3 months, or maybe even more months of the year where it's really flat. You can get really frantic chasing work when it's quiet too. So that puts, a massive amount of pressure on you. Like it's really stressful. When you don't have workflow, you run around like a cut snake trying to get work. And also, it's quite insidious that happens. When you're desperate for work, you tend to lose your positioning, and you'll price it, some crazy prices to get stuff because you think that's the way to win it. And so that can really hit the margin because you're just pricing work to win it, not really to make profit, because you just need that work to keep the team busy. A lot of stress, a lot of frustration, particularly with not really understanding why the situation is what it is. It's like, well, we're busy. What happened? And fundamentally what happens if you want to grow a great business, it stalls because of this up and down nature of workflow. And it does some funny things to your mindset. You actually start to lack confidence to hire and expand because you're like, well, what if the work dries up? You know, I'm at the mercy of the environment. It's just gone quiet. Well, if it goes quiet again, I have all these people on board, what's going to happen? And, you know, most of us as business owners don't want to take people on and have to put them off and stuff. And so we kind of don't do it. And we get caught in this pattern of up and down workflow, stalled business growth, and we're not really hitting the goals that we have for our business.
100%. You get stuck in the cycle. But on the other hand, you know, if we can turn this around, pretty massive upsides.
It is. Well, you know, if you can get consistent workflow, you get consistent cash flow and profit. You're not chasing, you know, work all the time like a mad person. You don't have to drop your pants on price because you've got work coming in. You can be a little bit more choosy. The stress levels go down, and you've got a strong platform to grow your business, because marketing and good lead flow gives you power. It gives you confidence to actually crack on and do stuff with your business. So it's absolutely critical that you get this right.
Yeah, 100%. So let's dive into how to actually do it, because I think that's going to be the question on everyone's lips. So what should we be looking at here?
Well, I think it's understanding the causes is the key thing. Like, a problem is easy to solve when you know what the problem is. And so really there's two factors at play here. You know, there are some external factors. You know, for example, seasonal work might be an issue. So if you are an air conditioning company and you're working you know, in a hot climate, then you're probably going to have a pretty busy spring and summer. Yeah. But your autumn and winter will be shoulder seasons. And so, you know, that could potentially be an issue that you need to address. So seasonal work is something. Maybe there's some changes in the economy. I think, you know, if you think back to the pandemic days, the deep, dark days of COVID, all of a sudden people were selling lots of spa pools, and no one could travel. Tourism was in the toilet, so people were spending money on stuff around their house, and all of a sudden that sort of took off. So that sort of stuff happens. But honestly, you know, that's not the stuff that I think is important for us to focus on, because there's not a lot we can do about it. I mean, you can do stuff about seasonal work. You've got to find other markets. That's kind of obvious. But it's more the internal things. What do we actually do as a business owner to control the environment? So what are we doing to control, you know, the veggie garden? What inputs are we putting in place? What effort are we putting to actually nurture the garden, to grow the vegetables more than just zucchinis?
Yeah.
Dinner's a bit boring.
Well, zucchinis are good. You know, you can do the zoodles. They're always pretty good. But if you want the variety, you definitely have to put the inputs in to get the outputs and break that typical cycle that we see. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone can relate, right? You know, you get busy doing work. You've maybe hustled for work once upon a time, but you get pretty busy. There's a lot on, and, you know, you're really excited. You start taking on more staff. There's more complexity, and it's all very exciting. You know, we're bringing in, you know, bigger dollars, and, you know, cash flow's going up, and you're just pumped. But you get really busy actually doing that work. You know, now that there's more work coming at you, you got more pricing to do, which takes more time. You know, if this is for a long time, you're taking on more staff. You're hiring, you're training, you're working on your quality assurance, you're building culture with all those new people. You know, you're building an empire. It's exciting, but it's also very busy. You know, there's a lot more complexity to this. There's lots to do. Your head down, bum up, whether you're the guy on the tools, you know, putting in the mahi on site, the hard work, or whether you're the guy who's growing the business and you're getting a team around you to do this. One way or another, it's taking up a lot of your time and energy.
Well, and you have clients demanding projects to be done, and there's deadlines and things need to get done, and this stage needs to be done, and yada, yada, yada. Like,
there's a lot more moving parts, and that's taking up a lot of your time and energy, and what you're not doing is focusing on generating any more forward work, because it's already there, and honestly, you're finding it hard to keep up anyway. And so then all of a sudden, your forward work just has dried up, and it feels like it's all of a sudden. Actually, you've probably been able to see it in advance, but you couldn't, because your blinkers are on with all your hard work. And then you finish a couple of these really big jobs, or you finish a really busy patch, and, you know, all of a sudden it's gone. And then you just hit like a ton of bricks, and you're really having to hustle, and your entire focus changes. It's kind of like people say with health, you know, you got 99 problems in your life until you have a health problem, and now you've got one. It's kind of like that with marketing and with workflow. Is, you got 99 problems in your business while you're busy until you got no forward work, and now you got one problem. And it just is a huge perspective shift, and I think it really does blindside people. So we've got to break that cycle with new inputs, right?
Yeah. And so the fundamental problem here, the big mindset shift is, if you run out of work, it's because you haven't put enough work into getting work.
Yeah.
It's an input problem. So if you want consistent outputs in anything in life, like consistent outputs in your garden or consistent outputs in any process, you have to have consistent inputs. And if you're not spending any time on marketing and sales, it sounds obvious. And I know if you're listening, you're probably thinking like, well, that's kind of obvious, but it's so not obvious when you're in the busyness.
Yeah.
And it's not obvious because you're like, well, I can get to that tomorrow. But tomorrow eventually comes because you do churn through your work. And so it's about being consistent with what you do to generate the work. And what that means is you need leads consistently. You need leads every day, every week, every month in a business to grow it and be profitable. So what does that mean? Well, leads come from marketing, which means we need to do some proactive marketing on a consistent basis so we can get consistent leads.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Once you've got consistent marketing, which is getting you consistent leads, well, if you just leave it there, that's not really going to do anything because those leads need to be priced. And this is where it often falls down. You might have the leads, but you're not spending the time pricing the work because, frankly, you're busy with project management or operations all the time, or you get a little bit of pricing done, or you do enough pricing maybe to keep the team, half busy. You're just not spending enough time on getting that pricing out. So you've got to spend time consistently pricing every week, every month to actually make sure the work is there in advance, because there's a time difference between when you price to when the work comes in. If that was all that was required, that would be great. But there's more. Once you've priced the job, you've put your bid of your quote out there. If you just leave it, you'll win some of them, but a lot of them won't fruit because they require follow-up. And so those quotes or bids require consistent, ongoing follow-up, which will have a massive impact on the amount of jobs you get. Now, that'd be great if that's all that was involved. But you want repeat clients because you might be working, and this happens often. You're very busy with work, and because you're so busy, some of the wheels start to come off. There's a few cracks that happen, and some of the clients can be dissatisfied with the results. You might start to lose some clients or a key client. That can cause the drop-off of work as well. So your existing clients require quality service.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's got to be consistent. That requires consistent inputs. Checking staff, quality assurance systems, training, good hiring processes. And so those inputs at those 4 levels, marketing for leads, pricing to get the work over the line, to get the prices out, follow up to get them to say yes, and doing a great job consistently, those inputs have to be consistent to get the consistent output of ongoing work so that you can grow the business.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really important to understand as well that these marketing activities, they often do have a lag effect. You don't do the inputs today and get the outputs immediately tomorrow. There can often be quite a lag there. So the right time to start is now. I mean, even if you've got heaps of work, you should be already marketing proactively because that's going to fill gaps later down the track. If you wait until you're actually quiet, it's too late because you then could be starting your lag time from there, which means you're going to experience a quiet patch. Now, people go, oh, but Phil, what if I start marketing now proactively and then it all comes in too soon and then now I'm overloaded with leads? I'm like, well, firstly, that's amazing. Good for you. Secondly, it turns out you're better at marketing than you thought. So, hey, you should keep this up. But thirdly is like, if you have too many leads, amazing. It means you have choice. It means that you can pick which ones are going to be the best jobs for you to do, that your team is the best at, that you can achieve the best margins with, that are most likely to pay on time every time, and you be a lot more selective with the work that you do. It gives you the power of choice. If you want to grow, you can grow. If you don't want to, you can be more choosy and really drive up your margin and your revenue actually. For no extra time or effort or input. So really, like, having an abundance of leads is a great thing because what that's going to do is it means that there's a huge amount of demand, there's not enough supply, which means the price goes up. It's basic economics. So look, if the lag happens, you're sweet. And if the lag doesn't happen and it comes too fast, you're still sweet. So there's not really any reason not to do it. It's kind of like planting the oak tree. Best time was 100 years ago. Second best time is today. Marketing's the same. Plant it now. Plant it every day. And never stop.
And just to pick you up on something there, Chief, you're right. It's difficult to get work straight away if you haven't done the work. There are a few things you can do. We've got a few strategies that
For sure.
people have. Email marketing, dialing for dollars. There's and some socials, Google Ads can help. But if you think about a decent job, if you price it, well, you might get the tender or the proposal. That might take a few days. Price it takes a few days. They look at it for 2 or 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever it is, and then the project doesn't start for another few months. So the lag time can be quite massive.
Yeah, and even with quick work strategies, though, the more often you do them, the better they work as well, because you become more top of mind for the people that you're contacting. So even though they work quick, they actually work better and better over a longer time horizon. So I think it's just important that we keep that consistency and keep things up. But I think the hard part is that people go, man, that sounds like a lot of work. How do I actually create consistency? I'm too busy.
Before we get to that, something just occurred to me that's super important is it's actually difficult to invest money and time and resources in marketing when you're short of work.
Yeah,
because people are like, oh, well, I'm a bit short of work and cash flow is going to take a hit. I can't really afford to do this marketing, which is another problem that happens when you have this inconsistent workflow. The best time to do it is when you are busy because you feel confident. You've like, I've got a bit of money in the bank, so I can actually spend a bit of money on this. That's the time to do it, and it builds on itself. That's a really important mindset distinction. And I'm sure if you're listening, if you're a bit short on work and the cash is drying up, the last thing you feel like doing is spending a few $1,000s on some marketing activities because you're like, well, I don't have that money.
Yeah.
Well, no, you don't.
No, but one way or another, you have to spend it. So wouldn't you rather spend it when you got it?
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, let's talk about how we create that consistency, because I think when we're busy, these thoughts of doing all this extra input, it's it's hard, it's daunting, right?
Yeah, there's three ways to get the inputs consistent. One is your own time management. 2 is other people to help you, and 3 is better systems to do it. Yeah. It's really simple. So for yourself, it's having a really good default calendar where you block out some time each week that's focused on generating revenue. Whether that's marketing activities or following up quotes or bids or pricing. So that's locked in your calendar every week.
Yeah.
And if you've got lots of projects happening and people screaming at you to get projects done, you've already accounted for that time in your calendar, and you've got to say no to them, because if you don't, in a few weeks or months, you're going to have no work. It's as simple as that. So that default calendar is putting some time aside to invest in the future revenue of your business. That's massively important. Now, I know it's difficult. I understand that, because when people are calling at you and the phone's ringing and you've got all those urgent demands, we're naturally wired to deal with that because of that sort of recency bias we have. But it's important to understand, if I always jump when the phone rings, I'm going to create a problem 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months down the track with a hole in my work. And we see this when people go away on holiday or vacation. If the business owner is the key person in the business and they take a decent break, maybe 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and they get everything organised, but no pricing happens during that time, inevitably they have a gap, when that lag time comes to fruition down the track. And they're like, well, I've got no work here. Well, you were away for 6 weeks, you did no pricing. It's like, It's like, I never thought about that. So that consistent effort or time in your calendar for this is absolutely critical.
But the thing is like, people might say, that sounds hard.
It is.
And it is hard, but at the same time, this is actually something you're very used to doing. Everybody does this. Like, there's a lot of things that you actually make time for in your day, your week, to invest in your future self. You just don't necessarily think of it that way because you've already developed the habit. And what we're doing here is that it'll be difficult for a while, but once it becomes habit to make time to proactively market, it's actually a lot easier. So think about, exercise. Exercise is something you do today for your future self. So, you may already be in the habit of exercise, and you create time for yourself where you go to the gym, or you go for a run, or you do some other form of exercise. And at the start, it's difficult to form the habit, but once it's formed, it's easy to keep it up. You make time to go to the supermarket to buy food so you can cook at home rather than eating junk food all the time to invest in your future health. But again, getting to the supermarket is hard. It takes time. It's time consuming, but you've developed the habit, right down to brushing your teeth. When you get up in the morning before you go to bed at night, it does take time. It's a hassle. You've got to go and do it. And you're probably busy doing something else, getting ready for work or, settling down for the night. But one way or another, you've developed a habit to make time to brush your teeth so that you have teeth tomorrow. And it's the same thing. You make the time at the start. It is difficult. You develop the habit and now it's locked in. So that's what you got to do. And the next thing is obviously, leverage through teams. So there comes a point where you can't do everything. You are overloaded, you are too busy, and you have to get all this other stuff done, and that's where you need to leverage other people. So different businesses will have different amounts of leverage that they need and different amounts of leverage that they could achieve. So whether it's admin help, someone to help you get all the bits and pieces done so you can get stuff out the door and you can contact people, make appointments, people to answer the phone, so that you can take all of the inquiries that are coming in when you're doing this work. It could be marketing help, so maybe a marketing student or leveraging a marketing agency. So if there's legwork to do in the marketing and you don't have time to do it, so get someone to do it. It might be sales help. So if there's a lot of sales appointments that need to go ahead, or you want someone to go out and prospect new businesses that you could work with, things like that. Cool. So if you don't have time to do all of the meetings and have all of the calls and do all of the follow-ups, well, then maybe you need to get someone to do that. Or pricing. You want to get a lot more work across the line, you got a lot more work to price, which means you might need someone to do the pricing if you don't have time to keep up with that. Now, with any of these roles, people go, yeah, but where am I getting that money from? And I'm like, well, from having them. They actually pay for themselves. A great salesperson pays for themselves because they make sales, right? A great marketing agency pays for themselves because they bring in a bunch of leads, which is a bunch of work. So again, a great pricing person pays for themselves. They price more work, you win more work, add a better margin, it pays for the person and some. So I think you kind of have to have these roles to have these roles. But if you're struggling with the capacity to get this stuff done, to have enough inputs, well, maybe you need to grow your capacity.
That pricing or estimating one is a huge one. We just see that as a massive bottleneck that you don't even understand in your business because you don't see all the lost opportunities from the pricing that you don't do or the pricing you don't do in a timely manner. And I mean, we've coached thousands and thousands of business owners, and people get an estimator and all of a sudden their revenue just surges because all of a sudden they're doing way more pricing. And if they've got a positive conversion rate, it's very simple. If you price 10 more jobs and your conversion rate's 40%, you get 4 more jobs.
Yeah.
So as long as the conversion rate's positive, and typically with the estimator, the conversion rate goes up because the stuff gets done quickly, which is an important part of winning work. It's killer.
Plus, typically your margin goes up too because
they care less about
they're
the
not
margin.
personally invested in the pricing
right.
that they're doing. So that's pretty beneficial. But your point there is actually you don't see the benefit from the jobs you're not pricing right now. Again, same with sales. You don't see the benefit of all of the sales opportunities that you're not even pursuing. Same with marketing. You don't see the benefit of all the leads you're not even trying to get. So when you increase the capacity there in any of these factors, you open up a whole new world of possibility that's not on the table right now. And that's actually the biggest thing you're missing out on by not having these roles.
That's right. And I've talked about this before. If you've got a cup and it's full and you keep pouring water on it, it just floods over the side. And that's where you're at, with your current capacity. If you get a bigger cup, automatically you can capture more water, and that's what happens as you grow team.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so the first thing is get better with your time yourself and prioritize. Get people to help you get more stuff done. And then the third thing is great systems. And so you can create a lot of leverage in marketing and sales through systems. And so that might be things like, hey, Google Ads, that's just you spend some money for more exposure. It might be creating a prospect nurture system where you have a good database of people, and using email marketing, you can send one message to multiple people. Using social media, you can get one message to multiple people, so you can create a lot of kind of leverage. And if you have systems, and particularly a calendar around your marketing, so for example, if you have a list of key prospects that you want to nurture, if you have a calendar for when they're going to get a visit and when they're going to get an email and when they're going to get an offer, that is very powerful because then there's some accountability around it for it to happen. So the systems make a huge difference as well.
Yeah, it's massive. So I think we've covered off some good points. Should we land this plane?
Yeah, well, the key thing is if you find yourself with roller coaster income where you're busy 1 minute and then all of a sudden it dries up, you've got to hassle and scratch around to get work, and then you get busy again, the problem is actually inputs. You don't have consistent inputs in your business. You're not consistently marketing or working on your sales activity, and as a result, you get inconsistent and lumpy outputs. So the key to success is to get the inputs right. Make them consistent. You'll get consistent workflow, consistent profitability, and a strong base to grow your business. Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.
If you're serious about taking your service business to the next level, be sure to check out our show notes for a copy of our free book, The Profitable Tradie, and other valuable resources to help you on your journey. And don't forget to hit the follow button and stay up to date with our latest episodes. That's all for today, folks. We hope you found this episode of the Profitable Tradie podcast helpful and informative. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.